So you were a Navy pilot for 18 years.
Yes.
Can you briefly tell the story of your career as a pilot?
Yeah. So first I was enlisted. I was a Marine, and then the Marines actually recommended me to go to the Naval Academy. So it's always better to be lucky than good. But I got to go to the Naval Academy, and I finished. And I had that dream to fly. So when I got
So
selected,
you've always dreamed of flying.
yeah, since 1969 when I watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon, I was at that point. I asked my mom. I remember watching it. I was just prior to being 5, and I said, "Wow, yeah, it's so cool, Mom." And she said, "Well, they were all pilots." And at that point, it was like, I'm going to be a pilot. And if you knew me growing up, because I was a little bit of a delinquent, people are just like, "Yeah, right." I used to joke, I'm going to fly jets, and I'm going to drop bombs." And if people that
You've
knew me when I
always
was a
said
kid,
that.
they'd be like, "Yeah," and they'd be like, "Not a chance." And then when I did, I actually had this is a funny story, and I'll get to it, and I'll finish my career. But I was at my cousin's wedding, and we all grew up in the same neighborhood. We kind of that Italian side of the family. That's how we grew up. So it was my house. Right down the street was my cousin Chad, and then right around the corner is my cousin Ray and my aunts and uncles and stuff. The guy 2 doors down from I was a paper boy in the neighborhood, so they all knew me. And I went to my cousin's wedding, and Mr. Race looks at me and he says, "David Fravor." I go, "Mr. Race, how you doing?" He goes, "You fly jets, Top Gun and all that." I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Man, I figured you'd be in jail by now." um, and it was kind of to me, it was a little bit of a badge of honor going,
Yeah.
I kind of overcame that. But
What do you attribute that to? So I've heard you before and just now say that it's better to be lucky than good, and you talk modestly about about just being lucky. But if you were to describe your trajectory, maybe in a way of advice, like retrospectively, uh, how'd you pull it off to be truly a special person?
the easiest way is never take no. Don't let anyone put you down and say you can't do it, or those. I mean, I knew what I was capable of inside, and if I really believe if you want something and you want to do something, then you can achieve it. Not in all cases. Like if I loved basketball and I really wanted to be in the NBA, there's a realism that says I'm 5'8" and I got like a really short vertical leap, but I'm really not that good at basketball. It's probably not ever going to happen, no matter how hard I try and practice. It's just the way it is. Or for me to be in the NFL, I'm not fast, I'm not that big. It's just physically, I'm incapable of doing that. But there's things that don't really tie to a true physical ability as far as size and strength, but it's mental. And I'm not saying you have to be a genius and super smart to be a fighter pilot. Matter of fact, you don't. It really comes down to the ability to think very quickly. 80% solution is typically good enough, because if you overthink it, you're behind. And then in an air-to-air fight, that's what happens. People try and overthink it, and before you know it, because it's happening so fast, you can't get to the nth degree, 6 decimal places. 80% solution is good
So you
enough.
build up a really strong gut for the 80% solution. Just
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the 80% solution.
I love that.
If you get
It's so
80%, you
profound.
can go, and then you can always adjust,
Yeah.
which is exactly what, like if you're fighting in BFM, the 80% solution is, it's like a chess game, but it's a really, really fast chess game where you go, I'm doing this, and then I know that if I do a maneuver, if he's going to counter it correctly, he should do A. If he doesn't do A, he does some degree less, like B, C, D, and then I know how bad his error is, and then I capitalize. So I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to go, I need to go to 47 degrees nose high. If I just kind of get above 40, then I'm good, and I can watch how he reacts, and then I can adjust for that. And you continually work that problem, and you chip away, because if you start neutral, you're just basically chipping away and gaining advantage till eventually, and if you're really, fighting, just guns only rear quarter, where you got to get behind the guy, kind of World War II dogfighting type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's literally, it's a very, very fast chess game that happens at, 400 knots, 300 knots, depends.
So to get to be one of the rare individuals that are able to do that, you just had the dream and didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, well, part of it is family. My dad was, I used to call him a fire ready aim guy. He'd smack me and then ask me what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Good parenting.
Back then, I joke and people look, because, at times it was kind of tough, because he can be pretty demanding. But on the other side, I probably needed to be reined in a little bit at times. But then everyone else in my family, my mom was really awesome when I was a kid. My grandfather, who is a big part of it, my mom's dad, who he taught me a lot. And you have a question there that we'll talk about him, but huge influence, very, very positive. And a lot of the stuff that I do today and decisions are based on things that he taught me. And I figured, it was the first funeral I ever went to, and it was about 3 miles long, and church was overfilling and people were out. He was a beer delivery guy. Dead serious. And you go, someone asked who died, the Pope.
So a lot of people loved him.
So back to my career.
Yeah,
your
let's
first
go.
question, because I'm getting down a rabbit hole. No, when I was at I was gonna stay in the Marines. I really wanted to go. Man, I love the Corps. I think it's of all services, it's that one. Everything is in a ball, and they're very, very professional. And it was a great organization to join. But I went out to the Nimitz on my freshman cruise. After your freshman year at the Naval Academy, you go out on a ship, and you're an enlisted person. You get to experience that half, but I already was enlisted, so it's fine with me.
Because it comes up a lot. You mind saying what the Nimitz is, what a ship is?
So Nimitz is an aircraft carrier. So it's 4.5 acres of sovereign U.S. territory that floats around the U.S. oceans.
It's a giant thing. Does it have weapons on it?
The air wing is really the weapons. It does have defensive weapons, but for the most part, it's a giant moving airport is what it is. So I was out there watching the airplanes land and take off, and I'm like, oh. And the squadrons that were out there, one of the squadrons was VF-41, an F-14 squadron, VF-84, an F-14 squadron, and then a couple of A-6 squadrons. And we actually ended up pairing up and hanging out with some of the A-6 pilots and BNs. So it was really a neat experience. And I said, I want to do that. And the way to do it was to go in the Navy, because there are Marine squadrons that go out to the aircraft carriers, but most of them are land-based, to support the Marines, because they're that unit, that whole unit. The Marine Corps is that one service that has it all. And so when I graduated and I got to, I worked hard through primary, and that's where, I knew Missy. Mm-hmm. We actually went through together, Missy Cummings. We went through primary together, and then I went to Kingsville. We all selected the same time. I went to Kingsville. There was another guy, Scott Wiedemeyer, the three of us. So I went to Kingsville, Scott went to Beeville, and Missy went to Meridian. So the three of us that we had all went through, we selected out of primary together. We all ended up going jets. And that's how, besides from school, I knew her at school too. Long story, I got done, got winged. It took me 2 years to the day from the time I graduated the Naval Academy until I got my wings. And through some luck, I ended up getting A6s on the West Coast, which is a side-by-side bomber. So it's a pilot on the left seat and the bombardier navigators on the right seat. It was built in the 60s. It is all-weather, and it flies low at night, and it's got a terrain mapping radar.
How many, I guess, is that a good term to use, fighter jets as a broad category for the public?
Yeah, that's fine.
How many fighter jets are side-by-side like that?
That was, in the Navy, that was the only one. The Air Force, the F-111 was a side-by-side, but the Navy, it was the A6. And then there's the EA-6B, which is a derivative of that. And now that those are all gone. The EA-6Bs just went away a few years ago, and now the E-18G Growler is the replacement for the EA-6B. There was never a replacement for the A-6 that I flew. It really became the F-18, which the A-6 could go quite a bit further distance-wise by fuel than the Hornet. And
the Hornet is the F-18.
Yeah.
Is there usually two people in the plane, but they're usually like in front and behind?
In the modern two-seaters, yes. But most of the tactical airplanes in the world today are single-seat.
Single seat, just one person?
One person. With the exception of, someone will yell at me, but really with the exception of the F-15E Strike Eagle and the F-18F Super Hornet, which is the F is a two-seater. And the G is also a two-seater, but it's more of an electronic attack by, say, full-up fighter bomber.
So most of the time that you've flown in your, like I said, 18-year career, was it two-seater?
That was about half and half. So I started off in A6, was a two-seater. Then I went to single-seat F-18s, and I flew those all the way up until 2000 and let me think, 2001 to the end of 2001. And then I shifted over and started flying the Super Hornets, and I've flown both of those, the E's and the S. But I deployed when I had command of VFA 41. I had the 2-seat. They were F Squadron.